All right, everybody. I am here with the former enemy, current ESPN broadcaster, and new frog friend, King McClure. King, thank you so much for jumping on with us today. I can say with all honesty, it's great to talk to you.
Appreciate you having me, and I'm glad to be here, honestly.
Well, we are talking to you today, King, because, many Baylor Bears, you have discovered that life is better up I-35 and that purple is a superior color. Obviously, it's giving you a hard time, but King is the latest commit to the Fort Worth Funk. To be playing for in TBT, the basketball tournament, trying to help some former TCU alums, some guys from other schools, and of course himself earn a little bit of cash this summer. And so, King, I want to talk a little to you, obviously, about that and a little bit about kind of your journey, because it's pretty fascinating. And then, if we can, put the ESPN hat here on at the end and get you to tell us your thoughts on TCU basketball going forward. Tell me just a little bit, though, your history. Your basketball career was almost over before you even really had a chance to get it started. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, when I came into Baylor, I came down to Baylor, Kansas, and North Carolina. And when I came into Baylor the first week, I chose Baylor because of the proximity to the house. And just I built a relationship with all the coaches on the coaching staff and Coach Drew. And when it was time for me to get there, my first week, we all had to go through testing, echocardiograms, EKGs, and mine came back abnormal. To make a long story short, they didn't know what was going on, so they held me out. And it took about 2 months to finally realize what was going on. And we went to a doctor in Seattle. And the doctor in Seattle, I think it was the Seattle Seahawks doctor, I'm pretty sure. And he basically walked in the room, checked it out, looked me in my face and said, "Hey, your career is over." I've seen it. No, exactly. He said, "I've seen this 2 times with 2 professional athletes, and neither one of them are still playing their sport right now. So you can either play." He said, "I'm not going to clear you to play, but you can play. But if you play, you will die." So he said, with that being said, your career is over. You'll never play basketball again. And I was 18 years old at the time, and I didn't know how to respond to that. So I just looked at my parents, and I just instantly broke down. And my parents, my mom was like super strong. And my dad kind of like was consoling me. My mom was like, "Nah, you're lying. That's not true. He will play again. He'll be able to play." And my mom was a tough one. So, by God's grace, I was able to get back out there and play again. So,
well, as an 18-year-old kid, and you were, I believe, a top 5 recruit in the state of Texas, right? I mean, you listed off your bona fides with your 3 finalists. Kind of tell us what kind of player you were coming out of high school. How do you make that transition from just kind of that moment of, devastation and probably fear to being the type of player that you were at Baylor? Because, I say this as a full compliment. You were an absolute menace. One of those, I feel like Scott Drew has an unending supply of just guards that are not afraid to be physical and not afraid to do the dirty work and just to do all the things that help and build what that program has become. As a young kid, how did you kind of change that mentality and enable yourself to play with the freedom that you played with?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's tough. Being a high school kid and being able to make the transition to college is tough anyways. Even if you don't go through injuries, if you don't have a setback, it's tough just because of the speed of the game or just many factors that vary into the college game. But when I looked at it, I did my first day of official practice was October 1st, my birthday. And that was the first day I was actually back on the court. So I sat out from June 1st to October 1st. So that's like 4 months. And I didn't do anything. And I'm one of those people that if I keep eating and I don't work out, I'm going to blow up and get really big. That's just how I am. Like currently, I'm in the process of losing all the weight that I've gained from just sitting behind the camera and talking. So my first day of practice was October 1st, and that was a huge adjustment. The only thing I could really do was shoot because I was kind of overweight. I've never played the game of basketball. That summer is huge for freshmen because it just gets them acclimated to the system, to how you want to play, the speed of the game and everything. I didn't get that. So it was a tough transition. It was one of those things where Coach Drew believed in me. The staff believed in me, and they told me, "Hey, you can play. You're good enough to play. So you just have to go out there and believe in yourself." So being able to be confident in myself at all times was honestly the biggest way I can make that transition because, without the coaches constantly pushing me, without my teammates believing in me, there was no way I could have made that transition in such a short amount of time because the first game was November 13th. So I only had a month to get ready and a month to really get back into shape. And honestly, just the hard work too. I wanted it. So I was able to go do the extra condition, extra sprints to be able to get in game shape to where the first game came around, I was playing. I played like 15 minutes against SFA, and I think I had like 12 points. I had like 2-3 threes, I had like 12 points. And it was just, believing in myself and believing that God didn't, put me out there for me to fail. He put me out there for me to really just, be able to show what I could do and show why he put me there. He gave me a second chance. I'm forever grateful. So, that's really how I made the transition.
You certainly took advantage of that opportunity. One of the foundational pieces, one of those guys that it feels like everybody across college basketball knew who you were, probably who, your opponents always hated and your teammates loved, like that's kind of player I think you were. I know that you flummoxed TCU fans more than one occasion, but you were a huge part of that building that foundation that took Baylor from being a really, really good program to on the cusp of being an elite program and somebody that helped get them over the hump to win a national championship. For you to have the history at that school and to believe in that school and to be a part of it and see them win that national championship a couple years after you graduate, what was that like? I mean, is there just still a lot of pride and knowing that you were part of building that up?
Yeah. I mean, I was talking to a guy, Tweety Carter, today, who's on staff now, who played at Baylor, was a part of the first Elite Eight team. And, we were just talking about how we just bleed this green and gold. I mean, we really take pride in it. Not too many guys take pride in it. And I think, we are two of the few that actually take pride in saying we went to Baylor, we played at Baylor, because we literally gave Baylor everything. I mean, with him and his story and then me and mine, and Coach Drew really, in a sense, like saving my life. So it really means so much to me. And, I gave everything. I sacrificed so much, even like with my personal basketball career. I mean, maybe I could have had a better basketball career somewhere else at a different school. And I had a good one, or maybe I could have had a better one at a different school. But for me to be able to sacrifice and be that team guy and be a team player and just really trying to, like you said, like push the other guys around me, the guys like Maceo, Davion, Jared, like those guys, they sat out my senior year. Jared, I played with Jared, but the other two sat out, and they were, that this not nowadays, the whole transfer thing is kind of crazy. But they're back then, they transferred and they had to sit out for that 1 year, and they learned so much. I was able to spend a lot of time in the gym with them, and for them to just be able to just implement everything that, I showed them, I taught them, and just, the leadership skills and everything. I mean, because they already had the game, so I don't really teach them that much when it comes to like the actual game, but just the leadership skills. Because the year before they won the national championship, or the year before the COVID year, was the year where Tristan Clark went down. And when Tristan Clark went down, before Tristan Clark went down, we lost to Texas Southern at home, and we lost to Stephen F. Austin at home. And they said we were the worst Baylor team to ever put on a Baylor jersey. And Tristan Clark went down, and like, okay, now this team went from the worst to like easily the worst. It's not even a question, not even a doubt that this team is the most horrible team to ever step foot on a Baylor court. So we band together. I mean, basically, we got in the locker room, and I told everybody, if you don't believe in us and the team, get out, because we're not going to give up on this season. We're going to go win games. That's what we did. We ended up going to the tournament, finishing third in conference that year, beating Syracuse in the first round, losing to Gonzaga. Freddie Gillespie just wasn't the same Freddie Gillespie that he is now. So Brandon Clark had a field day in that game, like 38, like 16. I think we're the reason why he went lotto. And they had Rui Hachimura too. So we just were outmanned down low because Freddie can only do so much. But we ended up exceeding expectations. And it was all just because of the belief and the leadership of myself and Jake Lindsey. And I think that like to see Jared carry that over to the next year and see Davion and Maceo carry that over to not just the next year, but the year after that when they won national championship. And it was special. I was in the building, and man, I just started crying when I saw it, because all the hard work and all the blood, sweat, and tears, literally, that I put in, it finally paid off. And to see like guys like Coach Drew, the guys who I've been knowing since I was like 15, to see them really be able to just, get their first natty and have that honor and that praise, and they deserved it. So it's like a family. You see a family doing well, and you're excited. So definitely.
Well, I'm in Sacramento, and I've been a Kings fan since I was an itty bitty kid. So thank you for your help with Davion. He's been awesome to watch in that Kings uniform. Unfortunately, that team's still garbage, but they're getting there. They're getting their talents there. We're gonna straighten it out. Well, you talked a little bit about your career and your professional prospects. When did you start thinking that broadcasting was going to be the route for you to continue in basketball?
Yeah, so honestly, I never thought about a career in broadcast. I had no idea what I wanted to do when I was in college. I even changed my major like twice because I had no idea. I just wanted to graduate and get out of there. So my senior year, we had a lot of new guys on the team. We had about like 8 or 9 new guys. And David K said, somebody needs to interview these guys so we can like let the fans get to know who they are. So he was like, can you do it? You have a good personality. So let's see if you can do it. So I did it. And I didn't use any paper or anything. I just went off the top and just interviewed the guys off the top of the dome. And afterwards, he was like, you know what, King, this is actually kind of impressive. I think you should think about broadcasting. And I was like, all right, whatever, cool. So we go to media day, which is like 3 months later. And Holly Rowe, I'm doing an interview with Holly Rowe. She's interviewing me about my story and everything. And afterwards, she completely flips the script and was like, hey, he didn't know I was going to do this. We're live on camera. He was like, he never going to do this. But King, you got 30 seconds to basically do a fast break with me and ask me questions. Ready, set, go. And I was like, oh, so I did it. And Holly Rowe's response was like, wow, you're actually good at this. You might have a future or have a career in this.
Wow.
And somebody like Holly Rowe says that, you're like, oh, okay, wow. I'm okay. Maybe I should take this seriously. So then fast forward, about 2-3 months later, our girls are playing UConn at our crib. And Holly Rowe is there. And she goes and gets me out of practice. Only Holly Rowe can do this, right? She right. So she goes and gets me out of practice and says, hey, I want you here to shadow me tonight to basically learn about the booth, learn about broadcasting, see what I do, see what the analysts do, and get you a headset. Just come back here, be here at 6 o'clock with a suit on. So then she tells Coach Drew this, and Coach Drew lets me leave practice early to go get a suit and to just go get dressed and get prepared for this. Like I said, only Holly Rowe can pull this off, right? So I do that and I shadow her and I just learned so much. And I just kind of almost fell in love with it right there. I was like, wow, like, this is actually kind of cool just seeing the ins and the outs of broadcasting. So fast forward like 3 months. It's almost time. Actually, the season ends. It's the Final Four. So we lost. And it's the Final Four now. And Clark Kellogg is a guy who's been my mentor throughout like my
Holly
whole...
Rowe and Clark Kellogg. Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, it's really crazy. Like Clark Kellogg has been my mentor. I met him at the Athletes in Action Leadership Camp. And we just hit it off and he gave me his number. And he's one of those guys he's so genuine. I mean, he said anything I need, he'll take care of me and he'll help me. Like even to the point to where like I called him and I was like, hey, I know you're going to be at the Final Four because I end up playing in the 3-on-3 event that they have at the Final Four every single year for seniors. And I said, I'm going to be out there. I don't know what all you can do, but I would love to shadow you and maybe get a feel for, what you do. He was like, perfect. I will set you up with a pass and everything. So I go get my pass. And I'm just thinking, it's going to be just something like maybe like a pass where I could come down every now and then. But he got me an all access pass, like an all access TBS or TV. He was TV Turner, an all access Turner pass. And I could go everywhere. So I was during the Texas Tech game, I literally watched the Texas Tech game on the set because he was doing radio. So he had to do radio and then came to the set to do it during like the halftime and the post game. So I was on the set in his seat talking to Ernie Johnson, Kenny Smith, and Charles Barkley. Charles would come back and forth. He was really in the back because he didn't really like to be around a bunch of people. So he was in the back. But when he came out there, I was literally on set watching the game with them. And I got to meet Ernie and talk to Ernie, and me and Ernie still keep in close contact today because he's one of like the legends. And he taught me so much and just like showed me about prep and just how hard it was and in the business. And me and Kenny, we were just, he didn't really talking about broadcasting, but we were just talking about the game, just basketball and everything. And Charles, I didn't really get a chance to talk to Charles much, but I talked to his bodyguard a lot. He was cool. Because Charles is like Charles. He's a little,
Charles.
I wasn't in the business yet, so he really was like, I don't really got no time for you right now. So that happened. And, just seeing everything align, right? And it was easy. And like with my basketball career, like everything has been hard. So I was like, well, if this is easy, then maybe it's meant to be. So then fast forward, I called because we played Iowa State, and I got Boog Shiambi's number and then Jeff Van Gundy, and we were talking. So then I called Boog and was like, hey, I'm probably done playing basketball. Like, is there any way I can talk to somebody with ESPN? So he hit up David Seisler, the head guy at ESPN, and he called me. We talked for about 30 minutes about my story and everything. He asked me if I had a reel, and I didn't have a reel. So I had to literally go like ask Coach Drew, hey, can I interview you on camera? And ask one of my teammates, can I interview you on camera? And then put something together, send it to him. I guess they liked it, so they flew me out for an audition. But I actually missed my first audition date because they called me and my voicemail wasn't set up. So they left the voicemail and it wasn't set up, so I didn't get it. So Seisler calls me again and was like, hey, we tried to get you out here. Like, what happened? And I told him, I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Can I please get another chance? He's like, yeah, come on. So basically, that happened, and I flew out there, and then, like I said, like what they saw, and it was history ever since. But I mean, honestly, Coach Drew really helped with that. I mean, after basketball season, Holly Rowe was in OKC, and I live in Dallas. And she called me and was like, hey, if you want to come up here, we can like work on some stuff. And I was like, I'll make the drive to OKC. And she like took a video of me like learning and talking and stuff. And she sent it to David Seisler. Coach Drew was very instrumental in that too, taking pictures of me just like practicing and working with John Morris, who's the voice of the Bears. And those two, they were really instrumental in just helping me get this opportunity. I mean, I finally got it and I just ran with it. So
that's an amazing story. I mean, just right place, right time, making the right connections, and then having the personality to pull it off. That's I mean, all those, you got to hang out with the NBA on TNT crew. I think that's every like basketball fan's dream, right? In life. Like that's incredible. What's it like now? You're getting a little bit past graduation, but you still played against a lot of the guys that you're covering now. And so when you walk into a Big 12 arena, is it hard to stay neutral, especially when if you're, I don't know how many Baylor games you get to do. I know I hear you a ton doing TCU games. You won me over, by the way. I didn't want to like you at first. I was like, I don't want to hear this Baylor guy talking about my Horned Frogs, but you're just so good at what you do. It's hard not to appreciate it. It's obvious the work that goes in, but is it a challenge? Is it enjoyable? Do you like that you have history with some of these guys that make the job easier or more difficult?
Yeah, I think it makes it more easy because it's one of those things, like, for instance, like Mike Miles, right? Mike Miles, before the game, I think it was for the LSU game, I wanted to do a piece with him, like something we can show or air during halftime or during the game. So I don't have to text the SID. I mean, they would like us to, but I don't really have to hit up the SID. I just text Mike directly and was like, yo, can I do a piece with you? And he was like, for sure. Like, when should I be there? Because me and Mike go way back. We were on the same AAU team. He was on a younger team. I was on an older team. But just like things like that, or like I go to Texas and I know somebody, or go to Iowa State, I know somebody, and all these coaches are all recruiting me. So like I know them. So like, and I'm talking to TJ Altenberger before the game. Like, we're not even talking about the game. We're talking about life. And like, we're talking about him and his wife and like finding a wife and like, just life lessons, because I've built relationships with all these coaches because they like recently recruited me. Or like Bill Self. Like, I mean, Bill Self was a little salty. I didn't go to Kansas. I was like this close. Like, I was literally like an inch away from committing to Kansas. But I mean, if I see Bill Self, like we're literally talking about life, not even talking about basketball or X's and O's. Even Coach Broussard, who's at TCU right now.
Yeah.
He recruited me when he was at UCLA, and he would be at my high school every single week. Like, I'm not even joking. He was at my high school every single week, and me and him got super close, like super tight. But like, they never sent Steve Alford out, and that's the reason why I was like, I just can't go to UCLA, because you never sent the head coach out. Like, you always here, but I want to see the head man. So me and him, even like when I'm sitting there at TCU, like, he'll come up to me, we'll talk for like 30 minutes. He'll be watching the game, he'll text me and be like, King, you're doing an amazing job right now. Like,
awesome.
Really great at what you do. And I like appreciate you, coach. Like, just sending me encouraging messages. But like, so many of these coaches and players I know on a personal level. And I think it really helps because they trust me more. Like, they're able to give me more information. I mean, they know like Fran Fraschilla. They know some of the top guys in the industry. But it's more one of those things where like, I'm like, hey, like Eddie Lampkin. Like I had a situation with Eddie Lampkin. Like me and Eddie Lampkin, like we can go out together, like go hang out. Like they're not gonna go hang out with like Fran Fraschilla. Like no disrespect to nobody.
Yeah, for sure.
They're not gonna go hang out with those guys. Like they can hang out with me and look at me like a big brother. So I think it's one of those things where they just trust me more. Like they just trust me. They give me information, and a lot of this stuff I got to keep confidential. I'm like, bro, if you say something to me and you don't want to get out, I would never let it get out. That's just not how I roll. But if you tell me I can say it, I'm definitely using it for sure. But I think that it's definitely played a great role. I think my first year was tough because, I'm not playing basketball anymore and I kind of missed it. But after a while, after like year two, actually I think year three was the first year I was actually able to finally accept it and really just say, all right, I'm just going to thrive in this and I'm going to use what I know, use my connections and try to make the most of it.
But you brought up Eddie Lampkin, you brought up Mike Miles. So I got to ask you, looking at TCU brings back really everybody now, with Mike withdrawing from the draft, with Damian coming back, Eddie coming back. They kept the heart and soul of that team together. After watching how close they came, in March to make it into the Sweet 16. Yeah. And I'm sure you would agree it was a foul, right? But Mike got fouled. Mike got fouled.
Yeah. It was a foul.
What do you think of TCU's prospects? I mean, the Big 12 is always loaded, but do you think there's an opportunity for them to compete for the top spots? And how far do you see that this team going?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think the best thing they have going is the fact that they're going to be a year older and they get everybody back. I mean, you lose Chuck, but other than that, you get everybody. And then you get Rondell to really replace Chuck. So I think Rondell was a great pickup just because of the chemistry between him and Mike that they had on that Texas Titans, but also just Rondell's ability to be able to defend. If you know the defender, he doesn't really shoot the ball as well as Chuck, but I think that he can get there. And I think that Damian definitely, a year older, will be able to be more consistent with his scoring. But I like this TCU team. I mean, they were good last year. I think this year they would easily be top 25 all year and could potentially maybe sneak into the top 10. I mean, they have that extra year of experience. And Mike Miles is one of the best point guards in America. I mean, he was that last year, and he's a year older, has a year of experience, so he will definitely be that this year. Eddie Lampkin, I think, is a guy who has improved since his first time. Crazy story. Eddie Lampkin, he came to Baylor when I was here, and it was the most random thing ever. All of a sudden, I see this big dude with dreads walking to my apartment while I'm playing 2K. Yeah, like I'm literally playing 2K, and I see this big dude with dreads. I'm like, who in the world is this? Because he came on a visit, and they were like, hey, just go kick it with King, or go to King's house. We're going to drop you off at King's house. And then y'all just like, yeah, like, they didn't tell me, we're going to drop you off at King's house, and y'all can just do whatever. So I'm just playing 2K. Eddie Lampkin walks in. I'm like, bro, who are you? And then he just had like the dopest personality. He was super funny and super energetic. I was like, all right, bro, I can rock with you. Like, you cool. So like me and him, I've been known him, and I saw the transformation with his body, and I was very impressed this year. I mean, he looked more mobile. He looked more fluid. He's always had the footwork down low, but he really hasn't been able to do it in long strides and long periods of like amongst the game because he was so out of shape. He was so tired and just wasn't the greatest of shape. So I think this extra year, I mean, last year, what he did, how he played in the tournament, how he was, I don't know why I forget. Oh, Arizona, how he was playing against Christian Coloco down low, and he was dominant. He was the best big on the court, and he was the best big on the court. Might have been arguably maybe the best player on the court that game and that during the tournament. He was one of the best for sure, but he dominated down low, and I think that right there just boosted his confidence. I also think just with what he's went through this past year, like with his brother passing, I think he has something to play for. I think that motivates somebody to a level that they've never seen before. So I think Eddie Lampkin is a guy who will definitely rise to be one of the best bigs in America. And just the passion he plays for. You have to love it as a TCU fan. I love it. I'm not even a TCU fan, but I just love the passion he plays with every single game. You just have to respect a guy like that. So I think they have the pieces to be great. They know the system. There's not that much learning they have to do. They just have to perfect it now. So I think this team will easily be top 25. And if they go to the top 10, I'm not going to be surprised.
I mean, this is, I've been around TCU for a really long time, and to see a team that's going to go in ranked in the preseason, I don't think that's ever happened. A team that you're saying could be a top 10 team, and to have a personality, you have a legit star in Mike Miles, you have a personality that college basketball fans are going to fall in love with if they haven't already in Eddie Lampkin. I mean, the talent and the prestige, and then also people are going to care about TCU basketball. Like that to me is absolutely just as a basketball fan, as a basketball coach, like that's what gets me super fired up for this season, to see what these guys could do.
Honestly, it was crazy because I did the game against I think it was OU, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was one of my first ones that I did of TCU's. And the student section and the crowd was crazy. I've never seen it like that. And it was like that then. It was like that the very next week. They gave me like 4 games if I was at home. I did the Iowa State.
I heard you a lot over a couple of weeks.
Yes. Then the LSU game. And I'm like, listen, all of the crowds are consistent. Like the crowds, when it comes to the student section, it was about at least, because it doesn't hold that many people. So it was at least like 3,000-4,000 deep, like of students. And that right there, like you said, like the fans care. And it was like TCU is like a good atmosphere because it's smaller, it's very intimate. The fans are kind of right on top of you because they're kind of close than the average arena. So it's one of those things where like the energy in the arena, I could feel it through. And I was trying to talk, I had to literally yell because it was so loud in there at certain points. So you're right, the fans are starting to care. I mean, TCU basketball is really starting to elevate, and Jamie Dixon and his staff is doing a great job.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure when you were a player, I mean, I was covering those games. I was in Fort Worth at the time, and it was more Baylor fans than TCU fans. So it felt like a home game for you guys. Now it's a tough environment to play in, and that crowd's made a huge difference in some of those wins. Well, let's get back to you and your playing time. What made you decide to jump in with TBT and to put on with the Funk and put on a purple uniform? Like, what was the process like to get involved there?
Yeah, so what happened was I played in the TBT last year with the team Heartfire, and it was Homer Drew, so Coach Drew's dad, LaFonso Ellis, who I worked with, and they merged with this team 23, who ended up going to like the Final Four last year in TBT. So what they did was they just took all of Team 23's players, and they basically just were like, hey, we're gonna rock with them because they made it to the Final Four. And I don't think it was Homer Drew or LaFonso Ellis' decision. I think it was more so like above their pay grade. So they just took those guys. So I was not going to play in the TBT this year. I was actually trying to get on the broadcast team, but I actually reached out too late, and they said they already had their team set. So I was trying to get on the broadcast team. But basically, the Fort Worth Funk followed me on Twitter, and I thought about playing for the Fort Worth Funk, but I didn't think it was going to happen. So I was like, it's TCU. Like, that just doesn't make sense. So I ended up going on Twitter, and they followed me. And the guy DM'd me and was like, thank you for the follow back. And I was like, okay, well, of course, like, cool. And, I was thinking about playing in the TBT this year. And he was like, cool, here, give me your number. I'll text you with the coaches. He sent me a whole paragraph, like, all right, we're glad to have you. I was like, bro, I didn't even say yes or no. I was just trying to say I had interest. He was like, we're glad to have you. Can't wait. We're so excited about this. And I was like, I guess I'm playing.
I guess it's done.
I guess it's a done deal, and I'm playing. And that's how it happened.
What would be? I don't know how many practices you guys have kind of gotten into, but have you gotten to chat with Lee Nayland much? What do you think of him and his coaching style? It's probably a little bit of he's kind of the polar opposite of Scott Drew in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, he's they talked about we might press a little bit, which is kind of interesting. Just and you don't really see that much in the TBT. But I think I've gotten a chance to talk to him briefly because they played in like the FedEx tournament, like different tournaments around Dallas, for like money tournaments, and we played against them a few times. So I got a chance to like meet him a few times, talk to him a little bit, but not too much. I'll probably get to know him a little bit better here in the next few weeks. But I mean, I'm excited, honestly. I mean, Coach Drew texted me at like 11 o'clock last night when he saw it on Twitter. He was like, he was like, so what? I was like, Coach, like I got kicked off your dad's team, so I had no other option pretty much, and they wanted me to play, so I said yes. He's like, oh, okay, that's cool, that's fine. But he wasn't really tripping. He was just like, what. But
hey, that Baylor TCU rivalry runs deep, man. It runs deep.
so it's deep, but it's not like that deep, I guess. Like it's only deep for football in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Because we had like that 3-4 year span where the football games and the rivalry was crazy. But I don't really see like Baylor having I don't think we really have like a true like heated rivalry where we like hate people. Like where we hate those people. Like I don't hate TCU. Like I mean y'all like, okay, it's gonna be lit, but I don't hate TCU. Like there's not really a team who like as far as like a player's perspective, like I don't really see a team who we just like hate other than maybe Kansas. Like but
well, everyone, right?
yeah, obviously nobody really likes Kansas like that. But other than that, like I don't really like I never really had bad blood with TCU. I mean, maybe Desmond Bain. Me and Desmond Bain had a few like, you know. Now we're cool though. We had a few like there's a little funny incident on Instagram. But other than that, like it was really no bad blood. Like I didn't see any bad blood. I was cool with all the TCU players. Except with
basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, basketball's a little different too. You guys all you grow up playing together, especially with the travel teams now. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to be enemies with guys that you've been rocking with since you were like 7 years old. You know, I think it makes it a little bit different. So, well, what do you think that you bring? You know, we've all seen you play, obviously, but what are you looking forward to bring into this team? And you know, some of the guys that you're playing with that you and Brandon Parrish would have overlapped, right? A year or two.
Yeah. I played again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
So where do you see kind of your role? Yeah.
Man, honestly, I ain't really played basketball in a minute. I've been doing a bunch of TV. So my biggest thing is I can get in shape. I think I can bring a lot. I mean, I think just my defense, my shot making ability. I think those two things. I just gotta get in shape, honestly. I'm currently down 10, like 12 pounds. So I gotta lose about like 15 more before that time. And I'm playing in this FIBA 3x3 professional league. And if I can just, you know, stay consistent, I think I can bring a lot. And that was the biggest thing last year. I wasn't in shape. I was way too heavy. I gained way too much weight just doing TV and just eating all the time.
Tough. That lifestyle is tough. It's hard because you're always on the road and there's always a food in the press box. Yeah, like it's brutal.
It's super tough, and I learned that the hard way. So it's one of those things where if I can get in shape, which I know I will, because I care and I work hard. Just my defensive ability and just shot making. I think those two things. I'm a team guy, so I really have no ego. If somebody's hot, if BP is hot, I'm gonna get the ball to BP every single time I can. I mean, if Eric Neal is playing well and is cooking, I'm gonna let him go cook. I mean, whoever's on the team, if they're hot, I'm gonna let them go do what they do and just cheer them on. Because I mean, at the end of the day, we all want to win. That's what it boils down to. So I don't really care about like, you know, dropping 40. I'd rather, you know, drop a smooth little 10 and get a victory. So that's the biggest thing. Just me being so selfless and a team first guy.
I think that's awesome. And, you know, you gave a great compliment to TCU fans. And as much as they are supporting TCU basketball, we want them to support the Fort Worth Funk too. We want to help you guys get in the tournament and watch you. I mean, it was so fun to watch last year, and it's awesome to see these guys come together. And I'm really excited that we'll get to cheer for you instead of against you here in the coming weeks. Folks, King, where can they follow you on Twitter? Let's help you out there too.
Twitter, King McClure at King McClure 22, or Instagram, King.McClure. And if you're on TikTok, King.McClure too.
Oh, we'll have to, I work at a high school, so I'm unfortunately on TikTok. So we'll have to hit that up too for sure. But yeah, it's been awesome talking to you. I really enjoyed it. Just really, really great to hear your story and your perspective. And we'll be watching you in TBT with the Fort Worth Funk, and looking forward to hearing you more on games come next season. Hopefully you'll be calling some top 10 Big 12 matchups between TCU and whoever else in the future. So thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate you having me.